let's see. Oh, look, it went live right away. Hey guys, it's Ted. Welcome back. It's the Ted Show, episode 64. Hope you guys had a great Thanksgiving. Let me know that you can hear us. The last time on episode 63, we did a couple of shows and nobody could hear us or see us. So that was fun. I got 1 like, so that's good. That's a good thing. So just click on and tell us you can hear us. Let us know that you can hear me and my guest. My guest is my friend Bill Moore. Bill Moore was born, he's an Orlando native, which is crazy. Thanks, Bob. Hey, Gina. Gina's on too, and Tony. Hey, guys, how are you? Orlando native. So we kind of met through the real estate world, and then I didn't, we always joke that the R&D budget here is about $3.45, so I didn't do my research, and I didn't realize that Bill ran for office before. So Bill's got a really cool history, and he's running for office again. So we have Orlando history to talk about, his history to talk about, and what it's like to give back and what you should do for your community. So welcome to the first show after our quote-unquote hiatus. I had to say that word. We had a week off for Thanksgiving, which was amazing, and I hope you guys enjoyed your Thanksgiving too. So welcome, Bill.
Thanks, Ed.
Thank you.
Appreciate it.
You look so nice and professional. I look like I'm a DJ at Denny Terrio's party in the 80s, but it was a Monday, and I did not have any jackets clean anymore, so I had to pick them up today. So. Again, we met through real estate, but you have a long history with Orlando. You were born here.
Right. We met at the Realtor conference in August, or right then.
Yes.
We had lunch. We did a TED show there.
Yes,
informally.
we did. Oh gosh, that's the one where Rose Kemp was there. Yes. Yeah, we met with Rose. We were at, they don't call it FAR anymore, but FR. Out at Rosen, was it? Right. Or yeah, that's right. Yeah, we tried to do one there. It was so loud, and that's right. You were at the end of the table. There was another realtor from South Florida there. Right. I'd forgotten about that. Yeah. So there you go.
So yeah, I was born at Orange, what's ORHS now, but it was Orange Memorial back then, and
on Orange
Avenue.
That's amazing.
Yeah.
And then you stayed here. You didn't leave, correct?
I didn't. I was a Orlando Police Explorer, 15 to 16 years old. I've been doing community service since then.
Do they still have that program? And what was that? Was that like you became sort of like a Candy Striper is the only thing I can think of, but something like that.
It's affiliated with the Boy Scouts type program. So you volunteer with the police department, parking cars, passing out leaflets.
In the days when we had leaflets, right, where they communicated that way, which I love. Before smartphones. They're not smart enough to keep me on task, that's for sure. But then you became a police officer.
I did. Well, before that I was a police cadet. So when I turned 18, I became an adult and got hired
I'm
by
still
the
waiting
police
to be an
department.
adult, so there you go.
And stayed, I was a police cadet until I finished my associate's degree, and I applied to UCF, was going to start in the fall, and I got hired. So at 20.
What's a police cadet? That's somebody who's in training to be a...
It's a non-sworn position. You're actually in the different areas of the department, learning like report review or records or CID. I was in criminal investigative division as a police cadet, and I helped out in the auto theft unit, just doing background, doing follow-up on cases.
So it was natural for you to go into a career as a police officer.
Well, it was, but all of my academic stuff was gearing towards being a medical doctor, and I got...
How did you get sidetracked on that?
I liked police work.
You liked police work?
It was just it was a natural fit. I mean, I was going to go to University of Birmingham. That was the goal, and just you follow your heart and your intuition, and at that time, that's what I did.
So you loved it. So what was it about at the investigate? So you actually got into, if I remember your bio, you got into the investigative part. You got into, so tell us about your journey on the police force, because you were with OPD for 20 years before you retired.
Yep.
So tell us how that journey went.
Yeah, I was there for a little over 20 years. I was Orlando Police Reserve, which is a non-paid appointment, and you still carry a gun, wear a uniform, but you're just not paid.
Does that still exist?
It still exists.
Huh, did not know that.
There's about, I would say, probably 20. They're mostly retirees. But I didn't live, and they don't live for police work either, most of them. I'm sure some of them like and enjoy it still. And,
sure.
But for me, I always said at 20 years I was getting out. And that was my commitment to myself to move on, because at 20 years, because Orlando police officers pay into their pension every paycheck, that affords us the ability to leave at 20 years.
Gotcha.
So I'd be working, basically 30 cents on a dollar, and there's much more to be done. And so I was a detective for 3.5 years at the in the economic crime unit. I investigated complex financial crimes, embezzlements, elderly abuse. We rotated between special investigative section, was what it was back then. So it was youth crimes, sex crimes, and economic crimes.
Do you think, I'm curious, because everybody says in the good old days, has it gotten, in your experience, has crime gotten worse overall? And I'm not talking about gun violence, although, and gun control, although Gina has a question. Gina, I saw it. I'll get to it in a minute.
I'll talk to it.
But has it gotten worse since 1993 to when you retired in 2013? Was there a dramatic increase, which is what the media portrays it as? Or is it just, what's the deal with that? Because I think a lot of people, they read what they read from whatever side they're on, and they look at the crime and they go, gosh, everything is so much worse, the world's going to hell in a handbasket.
Right. Well, I mean, over time, population has grown. My background, my graduate degree is in security management, and population density kind of indicates that there's going to be an increase in crime. So as Orlando's grown, depending on who you want to listen to, crime has gone up or stayed the same. As far as gun violence, I do have a plan.
Yes, because Gina, let me ask in case let me read it so in case you didn't see it. Gina said, I hope Mr. Moore has specific plans to address gun violence in Orlando. I know most work on this must be done in Tallahassee, but what can be done at the BCC level? That's a great question,
Absolutely,
Gina.
And that's something I ran on my platform in 2016. Legislatively, the county ordinances, the city ordinances cannot preempt gun laws, state statutes. So what we have to do is be creative, think out of the box, and leverage technology to fight that. And one of the ways that I would do that is implementing a shot spotter program, which basically triangulates the sound of a gunshot being fired. It gives a GPS location, sends it immediately to the police officer on the street. It's in cities around the country. It's worked. And can you imagine if we had a serial killer, just like they have in Tampa, shooting people randomly in a neighborhood, and we're in the same predicament. We're heavily, our economy here is heavily driven on tourism. So ShotSpotter will protect our residents and the public safety and welfare of our residents and our visitors alike. And it's scalable. We can put it up and grow as we get more funds. We can put it up. It's relatively inexpensive compared to what it can achieve.
So how does that work? Say it again for them, because so somebody fires a shot. So how does this address, so you've got guns on the street and somebody fires a shot. Mm-hmm. This is a way to actually almost GPS it, for lack of a better term, and then the police force or the law enforcement can locate that based on the GPS technology.
Right. So they have sensors on rooftops of government buildings or participating businesses who are good corporate citizens. Usually it's a government building, because then they can kind of control to leave it up there instead of someone changing hands on the property and wanting it out. But basically it listens for that sound signature of a gunshot, and it has algorithms to distinguish from fireworks, from backfiring cars, and in some cases, because the sound is a unique sound, if it's a rifle, it's a piercing sound. If it's a gunshot, it's kind of like it's a different sound. So the software can actually give an indication of what kind of gun it could be firing from. So if an officer knows that it's being shot by a rifle, they know that as they approach that area, they could have a drop on them. Someone could have the drop on them and actually and shoot them from a distance. So there might be a different response in that scenario. But like in Tampa, if they had it, they missed the guy, I think, by a few minutes. I would imagine they had their tactical units in the area, and they heard the shot, and they rushed into the area, but not really knowing where to go. If they had Shot Spotter, it would have had a pinpoint longitude position on a map, and they would have gone there and probably seen the person leaving. And that actually worked, and I believe it was in Arkansas. Similar, I mean, exact same scenario where the guy was in the neighborhood shooting people, and I think he shot 2 people, and after the first person was shot, they were in the area, and after he shot the second person, they found him because they were already there.
This is called Shot Spotter.
Shot Spotter, yeah.
Very interesting. So you guys do your research because that's pretty cool. So, were you on the streets as a police officer?
I did 5 years midnight patrol in the southeast part of Orlando, which is really District 3, and Orange Avenue. So I'm really familiar with District 3 overall. I patrolled the northeast section of Colonial as well. A little bit on the west side of town during the World Cup soccer. And
I remember.
A little bit prior to that, but predominantly on the east side. So that's where I grew up. They try to put officers in the area where they're most familiar and make more of an impact. That was the rationale back then. Times change, methods of policing have changed. So it may not be the case now, but how it kind of worked back then.
And then what happened? 2013, you retired, and then what did you want to be when you grew up after that?
Real estate's always been an interest, and I was a part of the Central Florida Real Estate Investors Club.
I love CFRI. They're awesome.
And I did that to start out, and I just had other things going on in the department. And after 9/11, I got sent to the Metropolitan Bureau of Investigation. I did. That was a systems administrator for the Florida Department of Law Enforcement's Electronic Surveillance Center. So I processed all the paperwork, made sure all the search warrant or all the wiretap orders, all the pen register orders, all the GPS tracking orders were compliant with state law.
I'm surprised you're actually on the show with me because, wow, I hope you haven't done your research on me. That would be scary. He probably has. That's a problem. No, I love that because I think that you obviously have spent a lot of time in the community participating in the community. Thank you for your service. We've had a lot of people say that actually on the feed.
Thank you.
I just think that police officers, first responders, veterans, we need to give you all so much more respect than you get, in my humble opinion. And there are going to be crazy bad apples in all groups, but overall I think our police force, first responders, veterans definitely deserve much more accolades than you all get.
And they need more funding to do what they need to do.
Totally need more funding.
But with those different layers, I was a police officer. That's one layer. Now I'm a real estate, realtor.
You actually said it right. I still can't say it right. It's not realtor. It's realtor.
Right. So we have those, and I have a security management background. So you have those different layers of knowledge and experience to kind of look. As a police officer or a retired police officer, I look at things a little differently. As someone who has a security management degree that does vulnerability assessments, I look at structures differently. You just see things a little bit differently. And as a realtor, you see, comps. You see,
sure.
You see lease opportunities.
Well, yeah, you look at things, I am sure, 100% different than anybody who doesn't have a police background. You're coming into real estate with a completely different set of tools than a lot of the real estate agents are, which is great. So before we get to real estate, one last question. What do you think of, so how do you feel like Orlando is even every time I'm at any place where I'm not sure of my surroundings, I think everybody's always sort of a little bit on edge. In the United States, we obviously are not as much of a disadvantage as some of the Middle Eastern countries who constantly get bombed, and it's just a horrible situation. But we have Vegas, we have Texas that just happened.
We have Pulse.
And we have Pulse. How do we, in a short way, if you can, tell us how do we protect ourselves? How can we be better citizens where we're more aware?
Well, aware is the key word. Most people operate in what they call the white zone. Just walking down the road, head down, texting, whatever. You need to be operating in the yellow zone. Walking out of the store, look around, see who's hanging around cars. If you hear footsteps behind you, turn around and note them. That might be enough to scare them away.
Right.
If someone does grab you, you're ruthless. You go for eyes. You put your keys in their throat. You do what you have to do to protect yourself and save your life. The idea is fight or flight. If you can flee, that's an option.
Sure.
But they can also chase you down when you get tired.
Right.
So, and then you're at a disadvantage because you are tired. So it's a gut call. And you just need to, if you don't feel confident, if you've never been in a fight before, if you've in school or high school or ever, go to a self-defense class, get some confidence. That will do you a tremendous amount of good should that unlikely event ever happen.
Gotcha.
Hopefully it never happens.
Great advice. We have some little interesting dialogue going on here. I haven't read it yet, but we'll read it in a minute. So real estate. So you're in. Now you're a realtor, right? So what kind of real estate do you focus on, and how is it that you went from police officer? Because you don't did your parents? Is your background anybody in the police force? Anybody in real estate? So how did you get involved even in CFRI to begin with, which is a great organization?
I bought my house 18 years ago, and I patrolled on midnights, and I saw homes, for sale signs, and I was looking at the different designs. So I was neat. As time went on, I joined CFRI, saw some of the flipping. I watched some of the flipping shows that always interested me. And then, I was going to do it a while back, and other things came up. So now, I'm retired. I said, I'm going to do it. And I did it. So
and now you're
I enjoy
in.
it.
You do commercial and residential, right?
I do. I do commercial and residential.
Which are completely 100% different.
Yeah. We try to find locations for buyers on the commercial side, and that's kind of my what I'm geared towards. And then on the residential side, I just sold a condo.
Nice.
So, and just referred someone to Alabama, actually.
How does it now? Eileen and I did Eileen Winfrey, who you've watched some of our little shows that we do. Mm-hmm. Eileen and I did a open house the Saturday before Thanksgiving. And one of the things we talked about was end of the year and how everybody's perception is that it slows down and nobody buys or sells. But that, I'm sure you could agree, is also a false perception, right? The market's still hot.
Yeah, the condo sold in under 90 days. I want to say it's like 68 days or something.
Wow.
And it's sold above appraised value. So people want to move here to Orlando, and
any time of year, I guess, is the message, and Eileen said it too. It's kind of an old school thought process that everybody kind of slows down and takes off from pretty much Halloween to January 1st. But in the real estate world, that's not necessarily true. There's open houses every weekend. I see real estate agents posting a lot of stuff. I see people buying and selling. Obviously, I'm doing pre-quals on the mortgage side. I mean, people are hot and active. It doesn't really matter anymore. I mean, it would be lovely for everyone to get their homestead in and close before the 31st of December. But even then, that doesn't matter to a lot of buyers and sellers. It's just not as important as it used to be.
No, it's amazing to me the amount of homes that are being sold. Orlando is unique that the income levels are such to where you have to rent, and if you rent, you don't really have enough money to pay or to qualify for a home.
Correct.
So we need to probably address that and get some affordable housing here. And something that I was talking to another realtor about is these storage containers, and they're actually modular, and they hold up better than a motorhome, and their wind values against hurricanes and tornadoes are much higher than a mobile home.
Really?
Because they're all steel.
Right.
So, or not steel, but metal, heavy grade metal. So they are putting those together and bolting them together, and you can go on YouTube and see some of the designs. It's amazing. And that could be an affordable option.
So let me go real quick, because Ed Sousa came on, and then I saw Jason pop on too, really quick. Our law enforcement officers need all the support they can get right now. You know, that was my business for many years as well. I don't know what else was happening there. So could a city or county get behind professional licensing assistance if schools like mine, he's an insurance school, authorized insurance pre-licensing courses?
In what way? I guess.
Jason, you'll have to pop back on that. So there's just, it seems like there's a little bit of, Ed, I think Ed used to be, if I'm not mistaken, Ed, you used to be in law enforcement, or were. I don't know where you went to, but come back with your question for Bill, because I think it's a good one, and I'll keep an eye on it. So let's move forward to you running. You're running for Orange County Commissioner, District 3, which includes what part of town?
It's basically from the Beeline or McCoy or 528.
I love McCoy, that's good.
Beeline if you've been here forever, 528 if you're new, and McCoy Road also if you've been here forever. But from that all the way over to Orange Boston Trail.
Wow.
All the way, and it kind of jogs over up to Orange Avenue, cuts over up to Orange Avenue to South Street, over to Bumby, and up to Colonial.
That's a large
And then
district.
all the way over to Econ Trail and Colonial, and south back down to 528.
And what made you decide on District 3 specifically?
That's where I live.
That's where he lives.
So you have to live in the district you want to represent.
That is supposed to be true. You're right. That's absolutely true. So what do you think what are you running on? What are your things that you're talking about? And I put it in the bio, but it's always good for you to verbalize it.
For a safer Orange County, and we talked about ShotSpotter, we've talked about funding law enforcement, our firefighters, our corrections officers who maintain the jails, who never see the light of day because they're inside keeping the bad guys under control. We have to, these departments, and the sheriff's office as well, the deputies, these departments get their wages based on comparable like cities, and that's how they negotiate their contracts. My concept of this is, now that we have terrorism in our country, and we've had it here in Orange County, and some people don't want to say that Pulse was terrorism. It was terrorism. He said Allah Akbar and everything else. I don't like when law enforcement sugarcoats it, and that was terrorism. But we have to look at Orlando instead of comparable markets. We have to look at other cities that are tourism related, and that's Las Vegas, that's New York, that's San Francisco. What are they paying their officers? And if it's higher, then we need to bring that salary scale here to attract better applicants, because right now they're not getting enough applicants to process, and the ones they're getting are washing out. And then you have retirements going through. Right now, Orlando Police Department is at the same amount of officers patrolling the roads as 10 years ago.
Wow.
And that has
you attribute that to the fact that we don't have the salary and benefit plan and the ability to offer them.
Well, it's been eroding away over time. I mean, the Florida retirement system, the legislature gutted that for the sheriff's deputies and the firefighters and the state system, state retirement system. Fortunately, Orlando, we have a private pension and we pay into it. But the problem is our priorities need to shift from other feel-good activities to funding these departments and these salaries for these folks, because the way you do that is there's an authorized strength level that City Council, for those of you that live in the city of Orlando or any other city, or Orange County, the Board of County Commissioners, they can fund a certain amount of officers, and it's authorized strength level. So once those funds are in place, then the sheriff or the chief, they can hire additional officers, but they have to stay under this cap. You know, the sheriff is an elected official.
Correct.
The police chief is not. So the police chief has to answer to the mayor. So they are an appointed person by the mayor. So don't expect something to happen to your police chiefs and these other agencies and cities around the Central Florida area to do something adverse or contrary to what their mayor may want. So
does it make it difficult? I'm always curious about this because we're kind of a unique, I know there's plenty across the country, but we have a city mayor and a county mayor and a city council and a county council commissioners. So how does that work as far as working with everything pretty much? Because crime, everything going on in the city, like we've got an event down in District 5 on Saturday, for example, which is West Art District. It's city proper, but it's still Orange County, and we would love to have more Orange County residents out there. How does that work? How does everybody coordinate? And is that going to be interesting for you, being a Belle Isle guy? District 3 is part city, no? All county?
Well, it's part city.
So that's an interesting place for you to be. So you've got city and county residents, different needs and different people to reach out to. How does that all work in your mind?
Well, that's why you have interlocal agreements to help fund some of these initiatives like ShotSpotter. I mean, I think I would get buy-in from some of those folks at the city commissioners. It's really up to the electorate. It's up to our residents to voice their opinion, saying enough is enough. There's a petition going around that they want more officers on the street in downtown Orlando. I understand it. There's way too much going on in downtown, and then that kind of ripples out. And you target one area and it goes away and it shifts to another area. So, and the reason that's occurring is, when I first started, we had 3 shifts: a days, an evenings, and a midnight shift. Well, to fix that, to fix the manpower shortage there, they went to 12-hour shifts. That's an A and a B shift. But now the Band-Aid, you can't Band-Aid it anymore. You're working with a finite group of people. You don't have that extra swing shift, or that extra, well, swing shift or the extra people on that evening shift to pull from. They're already consolidated, and the only way that you're going to get more officers on the street is if these specialized units start to disband, and those are the folks that are catching the burglars and bank robbers and violent crime type folks that they're watching right now.
Very interesting.
It's funding and it's interlocal agreements and what have you, and just Senate Bill 658 for 2018 is going to allocate. Provide the opportunity to allocate tourist development tax to other initiatives for capital improvement projects. So that is going, if that passes, then the method by which we can get funds for some of these programs will free up the money that was going to go to somewhere. We can utilize the TDT funds for other capital improvement projects, and then that other money that was going to use for that capital improvement is now freed up to do all these other things. So what isn't tourism related, that money is freed up to do non-tourism related activity.
So let me ask Ed's question, and it's interesting because you're the first. I've invited several people who are running or current elected officials on. I have a couple coming up in the next month or so, but this is definitely an interesting one because people are responding, and that's what we want you to do as long as it doesn't get ugly. That's not what this show is about. But so Ed Sousa says, my question for Bill, as he focused on the influx of people coming from Puerto Rico, especially as it pertains to the increase in crime with no vetting because they are citizens, it reminds me of the boat lift from Cuba in the 70s. This caused a massive spike in crime in Miami. So I'll let you either address that, talk to Ed later, or whatever you feel like, but I don't want to get off and not at least acknowledge the fact that he asked the question.
Right. Well, Ed, I actually attended Mission Boricua, which was an informational session last week. I've lost track of days. But they were talking about the influx of folks coming in from Puerto Rico, and they're citizens. So when they come here, we have an obligation to take care of them. If our Board of County Commissioners had a lack of planning for not necessarily that event, but because of, the firefighter personnel and the police and the teachers and the schools and and the corrections, all those folks, all that stuff needed to be taken care of, and now we find ourselves in a position because we didn't take care of it. We are behind the 8 ball big time. Schools are a huge issue, and we've already got, I want to say, 1,500 or 1,800 extra in Orange County as a result from Puerto Rico people coming here. So, one of the things I want to change in Orange County is the policy to require a certain amount of acreage to build a school. And that was a big deal when Azalea Park Elementary was being built. They had the plans, they had the tract of land, and they say, well, school board, you can't build a school because you need an extra 2 or 3 acres.
And is that because they anticipated having to put a whole bunch of portables on it because of growth?
No, they have an outdated policy that was created, I think, like 20-something years ago or longer, that says you have to have a certain amount of acreage. And the school board believed that they had a site constructed with the proper drainage because they were leveraging technology, and planning and zoning, I guess, didn't see it that way, and the school board actually had to buy the tract of land behind the tract they already owned for another $2 or $3 million, which could have gone to teacher salaries or other amenities, and
which is always a big,
and when there's delays, it just costs more money because there's always inflation taking place. So cost of materials.
All right, so we're so over time, but I love this conversation. We're going to keep going for a little bit. And then you can always reach out, and I'm going to give you Bill's information, which was on the original post. So why jump back into the frying pan? Why jump back into the fray? Because you ran once, and then now you're like, okay, this is what I want to do. Why?
Well, the problem's not solved. We still have the problems that I just discussed, and you see the incident happening in Tampa. You see the school system suffering because of influx of folks coming in from Puerto Rico. We don't have the infrastructure in place to take care of the things we need to take care of, and it's because we've got sidetracked. The soccer stadium, we obtain land through eminent domain on that, and then we sell it back to, or give it back to the guy that financed it, was looking for a cooperation with the city and the county, and now it's his stadium. Well, now all those venues, or all the vendors that were in there, there's supposed to be revenue coming into the city. Well, that revenue's not coming because he owns it all. So we just need to focus and keep our eye on the ball and stop kicking the can down the road. That's why I'm running again. And if you want change, and I hate using that word, but you need to, if you want improvement, you vote for Bill Moore.
I like improvement. That's good. All right, so it's votefordbillmoore.com, right? It's
or votebillmoore.com.
Vote.
Either one will get you there.
Oh, okay, so good. I might have done it wrong or right. And then Ed, I will have, obviously Bill's going to read this later, and I'll have him reach out to you. I appreciate everybody's, definitely an interesting conversation today. It always goes in a weird direction. You never know, and it's a fun weird direction, not a bad one. I appreciate you guys asking the questions. I encourage you to reach out to Bill directly. So go to his website. I think all of his contact information is on there, or you can reach out to me and I'll give you his contact information. We'll post it when we share the video later on today. But it was awesome having you on today. You did a great job, like I knew you would. Very informative.
Thank you, everybody, for posing the questions.
Yeah, you guys ask more questions. I wish I could encourage people more to do that, because the more that you ask questions, the better informed you become, and then you can make actual informed decisions rather than listening to the media and listening to sources that may not really reflect what you're thinking, or may not reflect really what's going on with the candidates that are running for office. So we love you guys. Thanks, Bill, for being here. I appreciate it so much. We have a crazy, wonderful week this week. I will post everything later. But please reach out to Bill, votebillmoore.com.
Or the Facebook page.
Or the Facebook
Search
page.
Bill Moore and it'll come up.
And please reach out to him. These are important questions, and he's got a big district he's running for, so you all should ask questions. And he's got a great amount of experience, and obviously you answered all the questions really well. I love to have somebody who actually can enunciate and talk well on the show. Thank you very much for that. All of my guests are awesome.
Well, my mom's a teacher, so that's...
Oh, see, your mom's a teacher. We didn't even talk about mom and dad and Alabama and all that good stuff.
Not related to Roy Moore.
Not related. And Alabama, what do you think about that?
It's a mess.
That was crazy. So anyway, we love you guys. Thank you so much. I'll see you tomorrow at, I believe, 3 o'clock. We are with Alan Gooch from the Cure Bowl. We've got a special time. Thank you guys for tuning in. I promise you that Bill will get back to you with any questions that you raise during the show. You guys are awesome. Thank you.
If you're a real estate agent, you might see me teaching something soon.
Oh, he might be teaching something soon. So definitely reach out to him. We love you guys. Thank you so much. Have a great Monday afternoon.